You're listening to Behind the Deal, a Central Commercial Group podcast, helping California businesses through the whole process of commercial real estate.
Welcome back to Behind the Deal, a Central Commercial Group podcast. My name is Ethan Bronson, and today we have a special guest here for our brand new segment, Mustang Made. As a proud Cal Poly alum, I've been reaching out to fellow graduates and quickly realized how many successful business leaders have come from our university. It's clear Cal Poly is something special. This segment dives into our guests' backgrounds, their time at Cal Poly, their entrepreneurial journeys, and their experience in real estate. Today, I'm joined by John Wilson, a fellow alum and major player in both real estate and hospitality on the Central Coast. We're filming at his incredible property, Greengate Ranch Vineyard, a 140-acre estate in the Edna Valley. Once a world-famous Arabian horse ranch, John purchased the property in 2012 and transformed it into a luxury destination for weddings, events, and getaways. Now a thriving family business, his daughter Jenna leads operations, continuing to grow Greengate's legacy with warmth and hospitality. John, thank you for being here. Can you kind of walk us through your journey from your early days in real estate to owning and transforming Greengate Ranch? What led you to take on such a big, ambitious project like here at Greengate?
Well, how I got started in real estate was I actually started my education at University of Portland in accounting, and realized after my junior year in accounting that was not for me, so I wanted to move to finance, which Portland did not have. So when I transferred to Cal Poly that summer between my junior and senior year, I got a job at an appraisal office in Paso Robles, and not everything was computerized. They had little comp cards that would give the history of sales over the years of those residential homes, and I started calculating rates of return on real estate, at least in this county. And the trend was it always went up. You'd have your ups and downs, but it always ended up. So that summer, I went to my parents and I asked them for a little help. And first house I bought was a FHA foreclosure. Always remember the address. I bought it for $66,000. I bought how-to books on how to tile and drywall, and between going to classes, did the work myself, and I ended up selling that house. Well, since I did all the work myself, I was in it very little. I ended up selling the house for $116,500, and I did 4 homes that year. My the first job was at Cal Poly, and I said, this real estate stuff's pretty good.
Yeah.
So I stayed at the appraisal office, stayed appraising. That's when they first started coming out and you had to get your appraisal license, which I got, and did some more home buying and selling. And then the early 90s came, and there was a big downturn. There was a lot of subdivisions that went into foreclosure, and I was able to buy some of the subdivisions. Well, let me regress a minute. One of the things I bought when I was doing buying and selling those homes, I bought my first lot. And I had a big, wonderful house, plans for a big house, and I had to work with a general contractor. I was not a general contractor yet. Built this great house, thought I was going to make all this money on it, and I just followed the market down, and I ended up living in that house for a while. In fact, my daughter was born in that house.
Oh, wow.
It was the happiest day when I sold that. I'd take a check into escrow to close it. But the lesson I learned is take greed out of any equation and always leave a little for the next guy.
Yeah.
And luckily I learned that lesson very early. So then I started buying some of these subdivisions. They were bank owned at the time. And
what year was this?
Early 90s.
Early 90s.
Yeah. It was early 90s. And I started out, I remember I didn't hire really my first office employee till I was doing about 30 homes a year. And then he maxed out at doing about, I think, we averaged about 110 homes a year for some years. And we also would entitle real estate and sell the entitled property later on. And then I would move that money. That's when I decided I should have a a steady income stream, and I would take that money, I moved it into more commercial real estate.
Mm-hmm. So taking all those experiences of, before college, going to Portland, you said, and Cal Poly, what about those experiences led you to Greengate and being able to see something special here, especially since it is kind of such a big change from Arabian horses to a wedding venue?
Yeah, so how Greengate came about, I had a very good friend of mine, and I used to take a bike loop around. I'd go down Orchid and Tiffany and then come by, and I'd always see this property up here. I never knew what it was. And a friend of mine one time said, hey, Greengate's up for sale, and you should look at it because you're in, residential, you're in commercial, you have mini storage, you should look at something ag. So I looked at Greengate, and I didn't look at it for ag. I looked at it because it was on so many different parcels, and I felt, well, I could break this thing up and sell it, sell the different parcels out and make money.
Yeah.
So that's what got my interest going, and I did. When I looked at it, I thought it was priced right. So there was other people that were circling around, but they weren't really jumping at it. So I gave them their price. It was a clean offer. I gave them, after closing, I gave them, I think, 90 or 120 days to move all their things off. There was 157 horses here at the time. It was beat up.
Yeah.
This whole ranch has been redone. And I ended up selling off a 75-acre chunk and a 57-acre piece for close to what I paid for the whole ranch, which allowed me then to spend the many millions it's taken to turn this thing around.
Yeah.
And to get into the events, I'm not even sure how that truly happened. It turned out great, and I've always wanted to grow grapes, so that was the natural fit. And then the events thing, honestly, which does very well for us. Honestly, I think about that all the time, how I got into it. I think it just kind of evolved. Yeah.
Well, and it seems like where you are here in the Edna Valley and the greater San Luis area is perfect. I mean, probably saw some of the clips earlier of just the immaculate views that are around here. It truly is a beautiful area. Talking about your daughter, about the house that she was born in, now she's been kind of involved with the business, being a former MBA grad at Cal Poly. What is that like, running a family-run operation? I come from a family business as well, 4 generations, so I know the highs and the lows of having a family-run operation.
It's great. I mean, Jen is somebody who I now rely on for like everything. I mean, I feel I could honestly walk away from everything today, and it would be handled fine. But when she came back, I always she probably get upset when I tell a story, but I remember when she first came back from Boulder, and she was going to Cal Poly in the MBA program, she actually lived here on the ranch, and she would work here on the ranch. And I would get up early, and this was a Saturday morning, and I was up, it was probably 6 o'clock, and I take a ride around the ranch. I noticed something I didn't like, and I called her up, and I said, hey, Jenna, and I told her whatever the problem was or what I wanted fixed. And she said, Dad, it's a Saturday. I don't work today. And I said, Jenna, you need to be outside 5 minutes. And I came up to her and I said, here's 2 things. If it's a family business, it's 24/7. And I said, if you ever refer to anything as work, you shouldn't be doing it, because what you do needs to be something you enjoy, needs to be fun, and you'll be good at it. And I think it took hold, because she does a wonderful job on everything she's involved in, which is Greengate. And my kids do some smaller development projects on their own, and she's involved with other projects that we're doing as a family.
Yeah. Well, I think at some point we plan on having her on as a future guest of Mustang Made. You talked about how when you bought this, it was set up all in different parcels. What were some of the other bigger challenges you had kind of developing the whole estate?
Well, big challenge, one of the biggest challenges was everything here had to be rebuilt. I mean, everything had to be rebuilt. From the homes that you see were taken down to the studs. homes were, one home we actually tore down and rebuilt a brand new one. But it was when we went for the entitlements for the events. I mean, from ADA, fire scrapers, but getting the entitlements done for just the events was a pretty long process. So I mean, it was, as I look back on it now, it's been now about this like
2012, I believe, or 2013.
2012, or 11 or 12. To get to where we're at today, I mean, it was. Now that I look back, it was daunting. In fact, I think a lot of the things I look back on that I've done in my life, I think as the older you get, I think you have to do all these things when you're younger because, some of the challenges of doing those things, I think, maybe I think the older you get, more wisdom you get. You don't have that wisdom then, so you'll take the added risk and, the heavy load that it took to get here. But it was quite a journey to get this to where it is now. I think every time I say we're done, some little thing comes up.
Yeah, and you're talking about the COVID renovation and addition that you had, which just down the hall here. But it's turned out beautiful, and I think all the other additions, I mean, you telling us about how you redid the wood here, I think it's all turned out wonderful. We'll be back in just a moment. So, John, we'll kind of talk about why you're here in the first place. Can you kind of give a story or explain a little bit your relationship with Hank and why we're sitting here today?
Yeah, well, I met Hank. He was doing loans, and he helped me. Actually, my house, he gave me the long-term loan on it. It was just GMAC. And we became friends, got to know each other. We would talk about real estate, and I told Hank that I think there's a great need for a good commercial broker in San Luis Obispo, because there really just wasn't much to choose from. And so I'd like to say that I take credit for, Hank getting into the commercial real estate game.
That's awesome. Even going back before, purchasing this property in 2012, do you want to explain or go into depth about any other parts of your career, stuff that you think, helped you gain the wisdom that you talked about today?
Well, kind of how my career went is I was residential builder, and then I would entitle projects also, and some that I didn't build out I would sell. And I started to decide I wanted to move that money into, a consistent income stream, I guess. So I would take that money. I started buying commercial properties, mainly shopping centers. I ended up building a mini storage, some warehouse. And that allowed me, to this day, I still have the income stream from those properties that allows you to then take on a project like Greengate that for a long time didn't make any money. And I was lucky enough where I had sold out of everything and got out of the residential building before the 2008 downturn, which, I'm very thankful for it, because that would have been really tough to get through if you were stuck with a lot of inventory of residential properties. So, so I kept I kept properties more with an income stream. And now you stay somewhat diversified, so you could have the retail, you can have warehouse, mini storage, and now we're in the ag, and then the hospitality with Greengate's both of those, with the fruit sales, and then what we do on weddings, events, just hospitality in general.
Yeah. So you'd say the 2008 financial crisis be a big reason of why you transitioned for your appreciation of residential real estate to commercial.
Yeah, I mean, I was already in the commercial real estate, and I had sold out of pretty much every residential project I had before 2008. And 2008 was in 2009, because the credit markets had froze up. In fact, that hurt the commercial market too, because the CMBS market really shut down too. And so to get financing on anything, but on residential projects or new ground up construction projects was extremely hard. So, I look back on that time too, and I do wonder, I thought about, God, should I have jumped back into that? But I think I look at the times now and what it takes to get projects entitled and the time frame it takes to get projects entitled. And then now if you look at construction costs, I think it's still a pretty, it's a tough business. And I don't think the older me has it in myself to do that anymore.
Talking about something, that takes time, that agricultural and farm industry. What do you love most about the farm and the winery business as a whole? That stands out, something from your previous projects or even the hospitality business.
Well, the main thing I like about it is that my family's involved in it. The other thing for me, in one way, farming is like development, right? There's a lot of unknowns, there's a lot of ups and downs, so that I have to deal with also.
Yeah.
But truly what I like about it is, I think just, what got created here at Greengate, and I live right across the street. What I've done, I'll look at just the beauty of it. Like as we look out now, we're starting to get the vines, starting to green, and it's just like the beauty, change of the seasons. It's just pretty special. Yeah, that's one thing I should always say I've always been good at is I hire good people to help me get through. I could have never got to where I'm at without hiring the right people. It's just like, we use, who we use to help us farm, even when, like if you look at like what Hank does in commercial real estate, you hire the right people for those needs. And if you surround yourself with good people, you're going to be successful. So that's, I think that, that is, I think, really how to become successful. You might not be the smartest, but if you surround yourself with smart people, you're going to get there.
Is there any other advice you would give to commercial real estate professionals, investors, or even general real estate professionals?
Well, I think we talked about one is, the main one was take greed out of the equation, leave a little for the next guy. I'd say take your ego out of it too. And I think some of the bad decisions I made are when I let my ego get involved. And just know what you're doing, run your numbers, and make sure they're right.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that will be it for this week's episode. John, thank you very much for having this conversation.
Thanks for coming.
Great to explore all of your property. Yeah, that will be it.
This concludes the episode of Behind the Deal. Be sure to give a review and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and TikTok. Until next time, have a great week, everyone.